Hello everybody and welcome back to the Midweek Marketing Mix. My name is James Deasley, I'm the founder of the Digital Marketing Bureau, and welcome to my show. It runs bi-weekly, and really the entire aim is to find the latest and best of the digital marketing news out there over the last 2 weeks, or maybe a little bit longer depending on the subject matter that we've got at hand, with the best guests that I could conceivably drag out of the gutter at the time of me talking and setting up the show. So the people in the gutter this week, we've got Kim, who's back for a second round, the marketing manager from Social Media Examiner. So Kim, thank you ever so much for joining me the second time around.
Thank you ever so much for having me.
That's my pleasure, absolutely my pleasure. Bring a bit of glamour to what is a relatively okay looking post. We've then got Eric Engo. Again, I think it's second time round, isn't it, Eric, for you, I'm thinking?
It is, and very pleased to crawl out of the gutter for you and on your behalf. So, anytime. It's good to get out of the gutter anyway in general. So
they're very clean. They're very clean gutters. It's okay.
Yes, indeed.
It's all right. It's all right. And then we've got debutante Vincenzo Landino from Broadsuite. So Vincenzo, thanks, mate.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
And what I love is the fact that Vincenzo's in the middle of Starbucks as we're doing this this Hangout on air. So that's like added bonus points for commitment. And Eric's in a client meeting, which is even more added bonus points for this. But I suppose, yeah, that's cool. Shows the versatility of Hangouts at the end of the day, which is great. Well, okay, look, so basically the format of this show, as many of you know, is really to look at the digital marketing news and just try and give you a snapshot of everything that there could conceivably be out there in the world of social media. Just very, very quickly, just some housekeeping points. I'm one of the very few Hangout hosts who use the Showcase app, so if any of you are out there and want some of the information that I am referencing in this Hangout, what I'm just going to do quickly is I'm going to bring up a little visual for you. So if you're watching this in Google+, and you want to comment, question, ask a query, whatever it might be, obviously using Showcase, it means that you have to separate off the actual app. So this little thing up here, there's a little arrow, you're pointing, the little red arrow with a little button with an arrow in it. Click on that and you can then comment into the stream. And if you are watching outside of this, maybe streamed, because it is streamed through social media today, if you want to use the hashtag #MarketingMix in Twitter, and we will also bring those comments into the into this Hangout on air. Lastly, again, the bit of sort of interesting thing is this little button here, be part of the conversation. If you're watching this recorded or outside, click on this button. It doesn't mean you're going to join us on the Hangout here. What it does mean is that all the articles that I'm referencing, the links potentially to Eric's book, the stuff that we're putting on there for the social media marketing world, all of this stuff is in this Showcase app here for you to get more information on. So please definitely get in there and have a good look. So look, let me sort of finish on that and say, right, let's kick off. Kimberly, there was a massive event that many people have heard about, Social Media Marketing World. And from what I understand, you shook an awful lot of hands on the way into a warship. Is that right?
Yeah, yep. I actually can't think of the name of the kind of ship now. It's the USS Midway, and it's a huge, there's some like technical name for the kind of ship. Not a battleship.
Aircraft carrier.
Thank you. Yeah, aircraft carrier. Yeah. And so this year I did something new. I jumped on the buses as they were arriving to the aircraft carrier, and I had to warm everybody up and get them all excited. And that was kind of a new task for me. That was pretty fun. Yeah, tons of people. I don't remember exactly how many people went.
Do they really need warming up ahead of going on an aircraft carrier?
No. Well, no, and someone in the events team is genius because they're like, hey, everyone should get a free drink when they go in, which is, always nice. So it was fun. It was a lot. It was amazing. The whole event was amazing. I say that every year, but this year was actually the best year of all.
Well, I just got to show this quickly for those of you who haven't maybe seen this. This is a screen share of that warship. I think that's the one, right? I mean, how do you have a party on a warship? That's a conference and a half.
They've had basketball games on the inside. It's so huge. It's so massive. And that's actually pretty tiny now compared to other aircraft carriers. But they've had whole basketball games on the inside. It's crazy. You walk in there and it's just endless. And
one day I should get over there. But let's talk about the marketing element of it.
Yes.
obviously there are, I mean, how many delegates are there and how many speeches are there? Because there must be thousands, right?
Well, there was, as far as presenters or sessions, tracks, there's over a thousand, over 100, about, I think 103 different sessions, I believe. And there's a couple thousand people, so there's definitely a lot to choose from. This year we did something different. This year the virtual ticket was included in the price of admission, if you will. So there's no way you could go to all the sessions, obviously, because at some point I think there was something like 8 sessions running concurrently. So this year now you get a virtual ticket so you can watch everything, or at least get the audio and the slides, so you don't really miss anything, that was nice. I thought that was a nice little bonus.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, isn't it? I mean, that's what they're saying. A lot of the reviews of the conference, everyone's just saying, look, check out my stack of my slides and my audio stuff. Click on it here. So I get that. But what's one of the things in the showcase, for those of you who are watching this, again, live or recorded, just have a click on it, is there was a rundown that was actually posted through Social Media Examiner of some of what they felt were the key takeaways of the...
Right.
So I'll come on to that in a minute, but from your respect, what did you feel were some of the really valuable sort of takeaways from your perspective?
I'll be honest, I didn't actually go to any of the sessions. I went to like a little bit of maybe 2 sessions because I was working, and we're told we can't go and sit in on sessions, but you know, walking around, I'm seeing all these people, so I ended up just talking to people. And so, but there are a couple things that I did learn just from listening to the buzz, and I led something called table talks at lunchtime where people would sit at my table and we discuss a topic. And my first day, my topic was Facebook ads, and the second day was future of social, where it's going. So, you know, I heard like the little bits of what people took away as being super important. And the thing I kept hearing over and over again was, you know, there's so much content being created. It's time now to start making good content and not just throwing whatever at the wall. Start being much more intentional. And I think that makes a lot of sense because obviously the good stuff is going to rise to the top and you want it to be your good stuff. That was, for me, the biggest takeaway.
Do you know, it's funny you say that. I'm just going to show you this because on the next week, no, hang on, 2 weeks' time, I don't know if you guys can see this. Now, let's just see if it comes up. Just come on to that. Let's see if that actually does it. No, it is. It's the latest book by Mark Schaefer, who says exactly that. It's called The Content Code, and the whole point is saying, you know what? Everybody is producing content. We are reading, looking at, absorbing more content than ever. And one of the takeaway things that I've read already in the initial chapters is the fact that, you know, in the 20s we were absorbing about 2 hours of content because radio started and all that. In 2011, I think we hit 8 hours of content. We're now over 10 hours of content in 2014. So how do we differentiate the content that everybody is producing to find out what's the right stuff? So that's a really nice, it ties in really, really well with what he's alluding to. So.
Right. Yeah, actually, in fact, that book, I was down at our main office the other day, and Mike always gets a ton of books, and he reads a lot of them. But then I just like go through the library and pick stuff off that I want to take home and read. So I just actually brought home Mark's book to read.
I tell you what, the clever thing on it is that literally the first 2 pages, and you're nodding your head. You know what?
Yeah.
You're bloody right. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. Content, content, content. You know, I mean, that's why you've changed the chapter in your book, right, Eric?
Yeah, you have to keep adapting. In the Art of SEO, we got a chapter on link building that became a chapter on content marketing. You know, so it's a big shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, cries in, doesn't it? And one of the things that in the article, which is in the Showcase app here today, is just about video content, and they're saying it's hot. Well, they encapsulate the title as it's hot in any format. I wonder if you can just expand on that a little bit and cover that bit.
Well, I think that the big change this year has been native video on Facebook. And obviously Facebook favors their own video rather than links to YouTube or whatever. So because everyone knows now that Facebook's giving more airtime to video that's uploaded to Facebook, people are starting to upload more video. And that's been a big shift. And then right around the time of the conference, or right actually before that, there was a big, huge thing with Meerkat and live streaming video. And that was huge. And we didn't really cover it a whole lot at the conference because it was so new. But then, you know, Periscope now. So you've got those, which I know that's live streaming, but it's still video. And in fact, one of the big surprises, I think, to the people who, when you have with the event, you have a bunch of, so they go through all the sessions, decide which rooms to put each session in. And I say if there's one thing that we maybe underestimated this year was the interest in video. So not only are the speakers saying, oh, video is so important, but all of the attendees wanted to see more sessions about video. So I think the marketers nowadays are getting much more savvy about what's going to work in social media because, you know, it's been around longer now. I've seen that even with this being our 3rd year doing the conference, that people are much more savvy than the first year or two. So, you know, I think it's going to be interesting to see where video goes. People are going to have to get over their fear of video, and there is a big barrier to entry with video, much more so than writing, because even with writing, you could always have somebody ghostwrite your articles or any number of things, but when it's video, it's you, and whatever comes shooting out of your mouth, it's out there forever. So it's a little scarier.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Funny enough, I've read 2 articles just over the last couple of days just purely on the video stuff, and I think in that article, Michael Stelzner says it's the uncapped frontier of content. You know, it's that, or untapped, I should say. It's that important. And the article I read over the weekend had nothing to do with marketing whatsoever. It was down to careers. And they were saying that nowadays, and I don't know what it's like in the States, but certainly over here in the UK, is that there are now recruitment agencies and companies who are deliberately having face-to-face video recording, Skype recording, Hangouts recording as the format of interviews because it is far more cost-effective. It's far more. They recognise that business is going far more virtual like this, and they want people who can look at the camera, who can actually present themselves well on camera as well as in person. And it's a totally different skill, right? It's there.
It is. Well, and colleges are recruiting that way and doing their interviews for even college students a lot more video now. So, you know, I'm sure that all different, doctors doing video, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, or I guess you can even have therapists doing video therapy. I don't know, but I know that there's, you know, unlimited potential for it, so you have to get used to it.
And Vincenzo, I think if you're still there, on your Twitter side, your profile is your Meerkat page, right?
Yes. I don't think I changed it. I was thinking about changing it, but my Meerkat page is, Meerkat for me has become kind of my my intro to, not my intro, but my way to get into video. On my show on this evening actually, and I was talking about video last week, and I've been scared of video for years because it was edited content, and like Kim said, you really need polished, and I was always afraid of, well, I don't portray myself well, I don't speak well enough, or whatever it might be. But since the inception of Meerkat and live stream, I was one of the very first adopters of Meerkat and using it right away, and it has completely changed my outlook on video. I'll actually later on this week I'm going to be attending a YouTube kind of course, just because now I'm so overtaken by how powerful video is and the engagement that it creates. So I'm right there with you, Kim. I mean, video, it should be on the forefront of every marketer's mind. It shouldn't be something it's secondary. No, it's first and foremost, especially with Facebook right now. And actually, I don't know if everyone knows this, but I tested it this morning. Meerkat is actually working on a stream to Facebook. So.
Wow. The hardest thing with the live video for me is I always think, why does anyone want to see this? You know, what is going on in my life that's so fascinating? And then I was thinking to myself last week, and this is pretty pathetic. My kids want to go to the beach, and I didn't really want to go to the beach. But then while I was on Periscope, and somebody was like periscoping their time at the beach, I'm like, oh my God, I'll have something to put on, Meerkat or Parrot. We have to go to the beach now, and I was so excited to have something fun in my life going on that I could Meerkat or Periscope, and I'm like, wow, I need to get my priorities straight, but whatever. So, but I mean, that's hard, but I admire those people that are like, you know what, my life is interesting, and I'm going to share it with the world, and because that takes a lot of balls, a lot of courage, and to get up there and, do that.
No, but I tell you what's quite interesting, and I'm going to come on to this in a second, because in one of the second takeaways from Social Media Marketing World, there's a big talk about the visual world and how visual we are, and there's an awful lot of stuff. I mean, I know Peg Fitzpatrick, who did a talk there, apparently very well received, was all about the visuals and how we need to be getting more and more and more on the visual side.
Yeah.
But one of the diagrams, which I'm going to bring through in a second, was about the visual hierarchy. And I've got this sort of theory coming in at the moment where with this world of video morphing in front of our eyes at the moment, we've got this sort of period of time at the moment where we've almost got a video hierarchy, which is you've got sort of some semblance of you've got your Meerkat and Periscope at sort of not the bottom of the pile, that's not the right way of putting it, but it's basically the most instant you can ever get. It's instantly gratifying, it's instantly streaming, and you're instantly connected with your world, your wider world. You've then almost got your Hangout stuff, which is in the middle, which is sort of upper stage of your video hierarchy. It takes a little bit more formatting, a little bit more to build, a little bit more time. It's arguably could be a little bit longer. It's probably got a little bit more power in the SEO sense without, I suppose, the hashtag catch for Meerkat. I'll ask you about that in a minute, Vincenzo. So you've got your live stream, Meerkat, Periscope, you've got your Hangouts, and then you've actually got your fully fledged video stuff at the top, which is your high quality, high end stuff. But you've got the steps of video marketing there right in front of you. And for me, it's so exciting because, I mean, I think it's like you just said there, Vincenzo. For me, I can't write particularly well because I think to try and get across passion for a topic, you've almost got to write lots and lots and lots and lots to get the passion over. With the video, with the visual stuff, it's far easier to get across knowledge and passion, and it just goes, right?
Well, I'll tell you one of my favorite. I think it was Periscope. One of my favorite ones I've watched is a guy named John Acuff, and he's a speaker. And he was showing people like his speaker notes and how he puts together a presentation, and that was pretty fascinating because I have no idea how people put together presentations for events or conferences or whatever. And so he kind of was going through and laying it out, talking about some of the apps that he uses, some of the different tips and tricks and how to do things. And he took questions. He was answering questions as he was doing this. And that, to me, was one of the best ones that I've watched so far because it was teaching me something, but it was also kind of like getting this behind-the-scenes look of something that I really admire and like. So that was really nice. That was nice.
Yeah, it's good. We certainly the last two shows we've done, we've been meerkatted and periscoped by guests on the show in separate entities. And the interesting thing for me, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there is a time delay for the Hangout versus the meerkat and the periscope. About 10-15 seconds. I don't know if you've tried that, Vincenzo, yet, but people were saying, hang on, there's a massive time difference between what we're seeing on various things.
Interesting.
I've done these Hangouts with like Brian Fanzo, and him and I will have a discussion on Google Hangout, and we'll both be meerkatting the screens to our followers. There is a significant time delay on Meerkat, upwards of 45 seconds at times. So, I mean, I've been on it enough to kind of learn how to play with it and try to remember what I say so that when people start commenting on it, I know what they're talking about. But there's so many things that are now, like, there's so many capabilities with live stream and Google Hangouts, and I know, and you know what, here's the thing, people have been using Google Hangouts for a long time, but now all of a sudden people are thinking about it again. So I think Meerkat, Periscope, live stream is really getting people thinking. I don't think either one of them is the end-all, be-all, and I don't want to, squash on your time here, Kim, but I don't think either one of these is the live stream end-all, be-all. Google wasn't the first player in the search engine games either. They were, 21? They came in 21st in search engine. So we don't know if someone else is going to come in and do live stream better and bigger and take over the world, but for right now, I think this is fantastic for the marketing world and for marketers in general. And if you're not ahead of the game, you're going to fall behind very quickly.
Well, one thing I'd like to throw in there real quick, if I can, too, is that Kim mentioned it earlier. Facebook really working on promoting video. You got to realize that Facebook is going to pull back some of that, or they're going to enable more organic visibility for videos than they do for regular posts.
Right.
So as a brand, it's a real opportunity to not have to deal with all the things that Facebook did, to take away all that organic visibility. You can get tremendous exposure right now, and it can actually go very quickly for you if you dive in and really engage with Facebook video. It'll go away in a year or half a year or whenever it goes away, but right now it's a green field.
Yep. Well, we used video a lot this year for social media marketing world for actually marketing the conference. Mike had Jen and I go out and make all these little promo videos. Not promo videos, they're more videos about what to expect at the conference, where to find good coffee, and all these various things. And when he first suggested that we do that, I was like, oh Lord, please no. But you know, I didn't have, it wasn't an option for me. I couldn't be like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. I just had to jump in and do it, and it was terrifying. But it was the best experience ever. And I was forced to learn how to edit video. And now I'm just starting to think, when is Facebook going to come out with their live streaming video thing? Because they're pushing video already, and they already have the people. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you think that Facebook will come out with their own native app? Because they seem to like all their own individual little apps lately. They're breaking everything into little segments. What do you think are the chances?
I tested an app Monday. Or Sunday, Streamago. Did you see that, Eric? Did anyone else see this?
Yeah, I heard about it, but I haven't checked it out. What'd you find?
I tested it a couple times. It supposedly posts live to your Facebook app. I don't think they're with Facebook. It's not a Facebook app, but they post live to Facebook. The quality was pretty poor overall. I don't think it was really as live as Meerkat is. But I noticed comments did come into the stream. I didn't notice a time delay. I couldn't give you a second, but it posted right to my stream, right to my newsfeed. People knew when it was posted, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And I got a stream of comments. So it was. I think it's coming. It's only a matter of time. If not, I think Meerkat will foray into that world. If they don't want to become their own official platform, I think they will go into the Facebook world. It's only a matter of time that, like you said, Kim, that Facebook gets it, because they have such a large population of users.
Right.
You might as well go after that too.
Well, I want Facebook to buy Meerkat, because I love Meerkat. I love that they're an Israeli startup, and then Periscope has such an advantage over them. I even use Periscope now more myself. Not that I use either a whole lot, but I'm going to. But I really want Facebook to buy Meerkat and give Meerkat a fighting chance, and go Meerkat. That's all I have to say.
Do you know what? But it's funny though, because as far as I'm aware, and you guys may correct me if I'm wrong here, but Meerkat is still the only one which has got the ability to be recorded through YouTube, right? Periscope can't do that yet.
So Meerkat, there's a third-party, I guess, vendor or app, and I'm in pretty close contact with them. It's called CatchCats or Catch. And they capture it. They actually got shut down by YouTube. Their account got shut down earlier this week, and because of the public outcry, YouTube reinstated their account within a couple hours. So yes, but Periscope does capture. It captures right in the app itself, so it replays them, and you can still download the videos themselves on both, and then upload later. Which again, it's another step, but let's not get lazy, people. Some people are like, oh, I can't automatically do it. It's like, come on. We haven't been able to do it for years. Now all of a sudden, you're complaining.
I don't know. But I tell you what, the fascinating thing, coming back onto your question there, Kim, about the whole will Facebook do it? I think they've got to do it, but I don't think it's necessarily on their their dev list. I could be totally wrong on this, because if you look at, there's been a lot of people predicting the future of Facebook, and me being one of them, I have to say. And just trying to rack my brains when you mentioned it. They say that there's 3 long-term strategies within Facebook, and I think the way that I've seen Twitter develop so quickly over the last 6 months, the changes they've done, they are reacting so quickly at the moment to lots of different things. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on the financial institutions on them to adapt and change. With Facebook, they're saying they've got 3 long-term strategies, and number 1 is linked with the internet.org. Philosophy that Mark Zuckerberg's got, which is obviously bringing internet to the masses and bringing them to people where they've got low or minimal internet. They're doing that by the use of their drones, and their drones are massive, but as light as a feather, so they can hover over areas which have got no satellite footage, and so they're actually able to bring the internet to the masses.
And they're solar powered, aren't they?
They are solar powered, yeah, exactly. So there's a connection there between drone technology and internet to the masses, which they're certainly exploiting. And for me, I really see Facebook as trying to get this total umbrella perspective on not just social media here at all, actually the internet per se. That's one thing, and then there's something that Kim and I, you and I both like, which is their purchase with Oculus. And most of you here who watch this show regularly will probably be bored of me saying it, but for me, Facebook are not as much now about being a social media platform. They're about being this umbrella. Similar, funny enough, to our love of Google, where Google have got their fingers in so many different pies. And it's funny, I was literally only thinking this morning over breakfast, how sad is this? I was just thinking, crikey, who remembers when Google was just the little icon box and the Google icon above it, and that's all they were, and suddenly they are this mass machine with fingers everywhere and being voted the most innovative company in the entire world. For me, that's where Facebook are going.
Yeah.
You know, with this whole notion of virtual reality, where suddenly the model of social media marketing is changing. They're getting criticized for the fact that you've got to grow your audience and you've got to pay for it, unless you can get it organically, which is hard work. And then when you've built your audience, you're then going to pay for people to see that content. It's a very hard thing. But what they're not going to get criticized for is when they are able, with Oculus, to give people headsets which allow them to take part in immersive gaming and immersive filmmaking. And people will pay a license fee like Netflix. They're going to start becoming the Netflix of the gaming and immersive filming world. Man, Facebook have got an incredible future ahead of them. So, you know, what is the meerkats of this world? I don't know. I could be wrong. Twitter is being really quick and changing. I think Facebook are looking at a far bigger picture here of not being this little social media thing. I don't know.
Well, I think they're smart enough to see that they still need to stay relevant in the moment right now. That they've got their big plans, their long plans, that their long game they're still working on. But I think they're smart enough to know they also have to stay very relevant and on top of things in the short term also. And they have the resources. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But I can imagine that they will come out with something, or buy somebody and absorb them.
You're buying the meerkat thing. That's interesting.
Yes.
I could see that, totally.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're nearly halfway through already, crikey. We've sort of almost gone on a total divergence of the normal midweek marketing mix, which is normally bringing you news. And we're taking takeaways from social media marketing world, which is fantastic. But look, what I'm very conscious of is Eric Enger very, very, very kindly is joining us, and his cohort, Mark Traphagen, is also watching. So hi, Mark. Thanks
Hi, Mark.
Is it?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, here's a comment from him. We've been creating something visually interesting in the opening of Here's Why with Mark and Eric videos for that very reason. Okay, it's all about the first 30 seconds of video content being really, really exciting and interesting, and then people stay on. Those shows actually, Eric.
Gotta pull them in.
Fantastic, fantastic shows. Right, third edition of this book. There we go. There's my love for it. Art of SEO.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah, that. I mean, I show this to my wife, and she thinks, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm reading a book about SEO, which is that thick.
Yeah, exactly. It's light reading too. Once you buy it, you need to realize you will not be able to put it down. So you're going to lose a night's sleep. You know, you'll get through that 700 pages because you're going to want to see how the story ends up.
But it is literally the Bible, though, right? It's the Bible of SEO. From my understanding of the real big SEO guys, it's literally the one that they're looking at. But you've got a third edition coming out.
I do. It's coming out in July. We've been working on it for a number of months now. It's actually in early production stages now. They come back with a quality control copy we do a final edit on, but it's more or less in the can and kind of percolating through the manufacturing process with O'Reilly Media.
Yeah, and look, one thing I will say, for those of you who are perhaps not the best SEO kings and queens out there, for me, actually, I got a lot from the first part of this book, which is not, it is not at all technical. It's very, very well balanced for people who are not necessarily SEO tuned. But there are three sort of major changes which I want to sort of, we've touched on a couple of them here, but there's three major changes you've made into this third edition from the second edition. And the first one surrounds this archetypal SEO technique of links and link building and so on and so forth. And can you just explain how you've changed that chapter that bears a context of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, one thing that you can say about people who are engaged in SEO is they're classically very technically oriented. And so one of the things that they learned after Google became the dominant search engine after their launch in 1998 is that the Google algorithm had a fair dependency on looking at links from other people's website to your website as a major ranking factor. think of it as, each of those links as being a vote for your content being more important than someone else's on the same topic. But the problem is that these tactical people, they get into this hunter mentality, and it's like, see link, aim at link, shoot link, drag link to the campfire, cook link, eat link, and they get into a very manipulative mindset. Of course, it actually worked for a while because Google didn't have a great defense against people spamming links and getting really bad quality links and doing these kinds of things. So, we used to call it link building, and the chapter was still called link building in the second edition, which you held up, James. But the reality is that the people who were really thoughtful about where Google was going knew that it was not in Google's interest to have poor quality links or links that you bought or links that you got from forums and blog comments act as votes for your content, that those were meaningless. And those people knew to think holistically about the content that they were producing and about how they did their marketing to effectively focus on building their reputation and visibility in a way that would draw lots of links or attract high-value links to your site. And so in this edition of The Art of SEO, the third edition, we've made that break to really talk about a holistic approach to content marketing. And how do you do content marketing in a way that causes people to want more from you, and they start, flinging links at your site in high volume and from high quality sites.
Yeah, the word holistic, I think, is a really good word for that. And you mentioned in that latest video you did with Mark Chaphagen about why authority still matters. I mean, arguably, I suppose you're drawing from that as well, aren't you? Because it's all about authoritative practices of you producing great content which people want to read, and as a consequence of producing great content, they will link to that content, and there's a holistic side. Is that fair to say what you're meaning about this whole authoritarian side is still that important?
Yeah, it does matter a lot. For those who follow SEO, there was a thing called a tag called rel equals author, which was a technical way of saying, hey, I wrote this, and telling Google that. And Google discontinued that program and caused people to think that establishing their own authority in their market didn't matter as much. But it still clearly does. Look, Google published a stat some number of, maybe half a year ago or a year ago, that said 10% of a user's daily information needs are for long-form content, right? So, what are examples of that? You found out you had diabetes. Okay, you're going to go do a ton of research. Your favorite sports team, won a big game last night. You're going to want to find lots of content, and you're really going to dig in and spend some real time with that content. And you're going to want that content from somebody that you trust and that you believe is an authority. Just you as a human are going to want that. And those signals still matter to Google. And so they still want to identify who the more authoritative authors are, who knows the subject better, the best, and rank those people more highly for relevant queries.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's that world of the holistic link building and the semantic search. I mean, the two combined, I mean, it's just integrally important. And talking about, I suppose, the semantic connections within the search and the social SEO world that we're in, one of the other chapters I'm very, very aware that you've changed is that of the social media space that we're in. And am I right in saying that's been totally rewritten? Is that a total refresh on that?
It is a total refresh. The history of this is that there actually was a brief period of time in which both Google and Bing experimented with using social media signals directly as a ranking factor. So what I mean is, if I'm on Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus or whatever, and I share a link to a piece of content, that I would view that as a vote for that content. And Google and Bing both experimented with that, but they pulled back. And they pulled back because it didn't really work the same way, as a regular web link does. Many reasons for that. Would be a long explanation as to why. The second edition was written at a time when they were experimenting with that. And what we know now is that's not really the path they've gone down. So the social media chapter now is being rewritten as to be hopefully a manual for how do you use social media to support your content marketing strategy, and how do those two things work together to help drive your SEO. And you know, there's a number of aspects to this, but one of the simplest aspects is that you're using that social media to help promote your content, which will attract links to your articles, which will help it rank in search. And all those things, we're back to that holistic word again, right? All those things are working together.
Yeah, and actually on that point of the social media side within search, one of the key things that if anybody watching this I would highly recommend doing is the research that Eric did with Stone Temple Consulting on the Twitter side, and when the Google and the Twitter relationships suddenly got reinstigated again or restarted. And I thought that was, I mean, I must commend you. We had a good talk about that on this show, just talking about how this whole Twitter integration suddenly sparked a whole lot of marketeers who, funny enough, were on Google Plus saying, actually, do you know what? We got to start taking Twitter seriously again, because, you know, if suddenly Google are looking at tweets and bringing them on, obviously on certain algorithmic reasons, as your research stated, suddenly Twitter comes in, right? It's, you know, it's there.
Yeah, and let me share. I'm gonna actually illustrate why the Twitter relationship is potentially so important. But first, I'm going to explain an aspect of what Google Plus does, which I think they're going to bring over to Twitter. And that is, on Google Plus, if you plus one of my articles that I've written, or one of my Google Plus posts, or something like that, that will actually cause your search results to get personalized in the future. So let's say you plus one our article on Twitter engagement. Okay, and then a month from now you type Twitter engagement in the search results. The article you plus one will be moved up in the search results. Okay, and you could test this for yourself. Google doesn't provide visible proof of that, but you can look at articles that you've plus one by doing a search on their title, and it will come up, and then you can do it in incognito mode in Chrome, and you'll see it ranks differently. So this personalization is a very powerful SEO benefit if you have a large social following, or someone you know with a large social following plus ones it as well. It's very beneficial. I think there's a strong chance that Google got into this deal with Twitter so they can begin to personalize search results based on your behavior on Twitter. Yeah. And if you have a strong presence on Twitter and you're successful there, then this is gold. And it doesn't just have to be that you have a large following. If you can get somebody who's influential with a large following to tweet a link to one of your articles, then all of their followers might see that article lifted up in the search results when they do related searches. That could be very powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why people are taking it seriously.
You know how you're saying that if you plus one something and you're later searching for it, that Google is more likely to push it up higher in the results? Do you think that will be the same case with maybe something you favorite on Twitter? Because to me, a favorite is kind of like a plus one.
Yeah, it might be. And what we don't know right now is just how much of the Twitter data fire hose, as people like to call it, is Google getting. So are they in fact getting that favorite information? Are they getting data on who's connected with whom? So, you know, will they know who your followers are? These are actually big questions that influence just how far this deal would go. But in my opinion, this deal probably didn't make a ton of sense to Google unless they were getting at least some of that data and intending to do something with it to, you know, to offer some level of personalization. So I kind of hope that they do that, Kim.
Me too.
But I don't know. Don't know.
Okay.
I'm curious to know, Eric, how much does that how much of a filtering factor does Google have now? I mean, is that giving Google the power of news now, so to speak? Are they delivering to me what I want to see or what they want me to see? You know, even though I may be interested in what, you know, things that I favored and clicked. I mean, I favored a lot of things on Twitter. I +1 a lot of things on Google Plus. Doesn't mean that I don't want to know about something else. How does that going to factor in?
Yeah, it's actually still a bit unclear, but since you asked about the news aspect, Vincenzo, yes, they will clearly get some news benefits out of this. They'll be able to more quickly recognize things that are trending on Twitter. This is data that they couldn't practically get prior to this deal, and the deal isn't yet fully implemented. We'll hear big news splash when it comes out, but because they had to crawl Twitter to get that data, if they tried to crawl Twitter enough to get news data in real time, they would have brought it down to its knees. Because imagine crawling all those Twitter accounts every 5 minutes even, or every 15 minutes, and visiting all those web pages and all those tweets every 15 minutes. The crawling burden would have shut Twitter down in minutes. So they couldn't get that data before. But with a fire hose, it's not about crawling. It's when the tweet goes out, boom, data's available. It gets pushed to Google rather than them trying to pull it off the Twitter site by crawling it.
I think it's a fascinating deal, because for me, when they started looking at the real-time search angle of this, when you could turn it on and turn it off, and you could then get your tweets in your search, for me, I quite enjoyed that, because it would give me very contextualized searches to what I was finding, which was very relevant in terms of time. Because if I wanted to find the latest article on, I don't know, how to optimize a LinkedIn page, and you were looking on your search and you found an article from 2011, but because it was very well optimized from 2011, it was very powerful, and yet it wasn't the right one because it was a different version. For me, that contextualization of real time really mattered. And I think it was interesting from the report that you'd written about how Google are filtering out the profiles that they want to pull the information in, and they're very selective. Not that they're probably, it's an algorithmic selective nature of which tweets they're pulling into the search to reference. And so it's what they're doing is they're pulling in contextualization from influential people to bump up the search. And for me, that's a win on every side, because it means that they're getting arguably the influential tweeters tweeting about contextualized search for people who are searching. I can see why Google are doing this. I think it's a very clever move.
You know, you just reminded me of something. When I think about Google, like I don't normally think about Google all that much, but when I do, say I'm looking for articles on artificial intelligence because it's a topic I love, I don't go to Google first, because in my mind, Google is going to have the most long-standing, well-liked content, and I can filter by dates, etc. But in my mind, if I want the most up-to-the-minute stuff, I go to Twitter. And if I want something that's going to be more of a business take on artificial intelligence, I go to LinkedIn. So the way I search out and seek out content, I didn't realize I do this, but thinking about it now, I do. I go to different places for different reasons. And so if Google can now start bringing in that more timely, relevant stuff in my mind, they're going to go back to being my go-to again, if that makes any sense at all.
And you know, just picking up on that as well, just to say very quickly, I'm just trying to find the quote from Peg Fitzpatrick in your that takeaway post, which is in that showcase app for people, stating that I'm sure it was 39% of people who post regularly on Pinterest use Pinterest essentially like Google, like what you've just said there. Mm-hmm. They use Pinterest as a search engine, not Google.
Right. And I don't look at Pinterest that way, though I don't doubt her stats at all. But maybe for within those particular topics, but I'm not like the typical user on Pinterest. I could care less about fashion. Like, I'd really rather read about science, and I don't think of Pinterest when I think of science. I think of science, I think of Google, or I'll go to Twitter for up-to-date stuff, or LinkedIn for how science business is using science.
There's some pretty cool virtual reality stuff on Pinterest, I must say.
Really? Then I'm gonna have to go look. I'm wrong then.
Pretty good stuff on there.
Okay.
I wish I was putting it on there, but I'm not. But anyway, look, Eric, I know that we've probably only got you for a couple of more minutes. There was one final chapter just talking about Panda. That's the new thing, right? Panda and Penguin. And that's a
Well,
funny
we
one.
can call it Panda and Penguin if you want, but yes. So yeah, we felt like it was really important in this edition to have a chapter really dedicated to the algorithms that lower people's rankings, like Panda and Penguin. Panda, which is really about content quality, and Penguin about whether or not you've used spammy practices to get links to your site. And then actually Google has another layer of things, which are manual penalties for punishing people who have really gone a little bit off the reservation in terms of what they would like you to do. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who get trapped by these things. The manual penalties are really situations that are reserved for people who really are doing overt violations of Google's webmaster guidelines. But sometimes those people, they want to kind of come back into the fold, and so the chapter lays out a recipe or a set of recipes for how they can recover from their penalties. And then with Panda and Penguin, it's a similar thing. There's people who might have done things unintentionally that weren't along the lines of what Google wants, and we try to explain to them what it is, how you diagnose it, and how do you recover. Give them a little bit of a formula for that.
There you go. Fantastic. So, third edition of The Art of SEO coming out July, I think you said, was it?
Yes, it is sometime in July. I don't have a precise date for it yet, but it is due in July, and very excited to have it coming closer and closer. We're going to organize a little book tour for it as well, so we'll see how that goes.
On the road.
Meerkat it live.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, fine. Well, look, Eric, if you've got to go, you've got to go, and I'll say goodbye now, really. But yeah.
Yes, I apologize to everybody for having to drop off a little early, but the client that I'm at wants my attention. Kim, great seeing you. James, thanks so much for having me back. Vincenzo, so sorry I'm not going to get to hear your piece, but great to meet you.
Sorry, great meeting you too. Cheers.
Thanks, Eric. Cheers, mate. Okay, so we've covered sort of a little tiny snapshot of social media marketing world before we got absorbed in the world of live streaming video and started getting a little bit effusive over exactly what's going on. So what have we got? We've got 12 minutes left or so. Vincenzo, now I'm sure there's other bits and pieces which have been happening in the news over the last couple of weeks. So has there been anything which has sort of captured your eye a little bit that you want to sort of go through?
I do love the, and it's funny because you brought it out in kind of pre-talks here, but the Elevate app for LinkedIn, and I have a few friends over at LinkedIn, and Kim, you probably know Coca Sexton and Carlos Gill and those guys, but LinkedIn Elevate app is just, it's something that I think LinkedIn has needed for a long time. So it's adding in not only employee empowerment, but it's allowing you to curate content, easily shareable now, and especially on Twitter. Again, Twitter's become the main, I think, the main platform for a lot of these partnerships recently. We see the live stream. Now we see LinkedIn. It's very easily shareable on Twitter and LinkedIn through the Elevate app. It's allowing you to also measure the impact of the sharing amongst your company or brand. So really, what Elevate has done is taken and built teams, put them together. They've realized the impact that a team has had as opposed to a company page. So most companies don't have a ton of followers unless you're a huge brand, but collectively their employees have a ton of followers combined. So why not harness the power of their network? So that's what Elevate is doing. I love it. I don't know, Kim, if you've played around with it. I've played around with it a little bit. Of course, I've heard a lot about it because I have friends that are playing with it constantly. So I need to get on it a little bit more. But I think it's fantastic, especially being able to share content now directly from LinkedIn at the times when your networks are most active. It's a huge feature. I'm curious to what you think, Kim, and James yourself too, if you've been able to play with it at all.
I have not been able to play with it at all, but I've read about it, and I think that's really interesting also, the fact that they are already giving you the best optimal times to share. That's one less step, because right now if you want to know when to share on Twitter, you have to use a separate app, and so it's nice that they're bundling that all together, and I think it's going to be exciting for brand pages. And I love that article and all the stats. I had no idea that, I mean, it makes sense logically that your employees are going to have this additional reach and that you should utilize that reach, but giving them a way to do that seamlessly, and if I get it correctly, if I understand, you can basically curate content for your employees. So you know that when they're sharing, it's also information that should be shared or you want them to share. If that's how it works, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and I probably left that out in what I was saying, but exactly. So you can curate that content. Hey, here's approved content. Let's all share this. I mean, that's a fantastic tool. You don't have to worry about what your employees are sharing. You don't have to worry about them, sharing content that may not be in line with your brand. And again, I just can't stress enough is how easy they've made it. But also, they're using some algorithm that combines recommendations from LinkedIn Pulse, as well as. Yeah, so it's human-created content. It's not standard cookie-cutter things you're reading out in the, 'cause we can find so much content. I mean, we were talking about SEO and Google before with Eric, but this is content that's being generated by other people on LinkedIn, and I don't think the information, the content that people take the time to write about on LinkedIn gets shared nearly enough. I mean, as it should. So this is huge for that.
Yeah, do you know, I think, Vincenzo, just to sort of back that up a little bit, I'm quite excited by it because one of the most underutilized areas of LinkedIn I've always found are the company pages and the company updates. Companies, certainly in the small, medium enterprises, which we call the SMEs over here, I just don't think they get it. I don't think they understand the point of having their own LinkedIn company pages, and maybe this is a sort of a kickstart to getting this going a little bit, because.
Well, and it's. Let's say, like, the evolution of the web has become website. Then social media came in, and Facebook, started, and then everyone had to have a Facebook page, and then you have Twitter and all these other things, and you don't really have you can have a Twitter brand page, but then Facebook started taking away their reach organically. Now you have to pay for it, and LinkedIn never really put a huge. I think LinkedIn, they ended up stressing their showcase pages before they even really put enough effort into the company pages to begin with. So they had these company pages that no one used, and they introduced showcase pages which no one understood, and then some people kind of stayed away from it and used it as a personal resume. I think now LinkedIn has become, people are realizing that there's more than just a personal resume. It's more than just that, and this is why now they're introducing. I don't have all of the LinkedIn apps, but they have a ton of new apps that are being used. So, and I can't speak to all of them either, but I know there's a lot of them in the LinkedIn suite now. Whether it's for recruiting, whether it's prospecting, lead generation. So there's different tools for everything. Really, bringing out the full power of LinkedIn as opposed to trying to figure it out on your own. They're empowering people, or their users now.
Vincenzo, that's the thing which I find quite interesting, because there has been criticism on this show a few times about when we've mentioned LinkedIn. And Greg Cooper, I've just seen your question, so thanks, mate. I'll bring that in a minute, because Greg is one of the guys we've had on talking about LinkedIn in the past. Is that there's just so much now of LinkedIn that the large enterprise companies out there, they can handle this because they probably have departments which can cope with this, and they have a recruitment department who will look at the recruitment app. They have an Elevate side, which they will need, their social media manager who will deal with that. They've got the different component parts of their organization which can deal with every different aspect. The smaller guys can't, and I think that's the only thing I will say about all of this. I love the sound of it. It is an enterprise solution. You have got to pay for it. So the small and medium guys, will they take it up? I'm not sure. But I see the. Just a second. You mentioned the statistics, because I think it's quite important on that. Because just for those who are watching, I'm just going to read this out so we can see this. That research that LinkedIn have taken place shows that only 2% of employees actually share content that their company has shared on LinkedIn. I mean, how frustrating is that, right? 2% of employees. But they are responsible for 20% of the overall engagement, clicks, likes, comments, and shares that content receives. So that's the big point. And Vincenzo, you alluded to it. it's not surprising given employees have 10 times more connections than their company has followers.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you know, and so I think that even with Social Media Examiner, I share all of our content personally, but I don't share it from LinkedIn. And we don't create content on LinkedIn. But it's been interesting how LinkedIn is kind of, they're almost like rebranding themselves. It used to be it was just your online resume, and now LinkedIn is this place where you can go and discover content. And I didn't even really buy into that whole content discovery thing until I started following the technology channel. And once I started following the technology channel, I find myself, and this is very weird for me, but every day now, at least 2 or 3 times, I go into my LinkedIn app and I check out what's new in technology. And that's strange for me because I would literally go a week without going into LinkedIn, and then when I did, it was just simply to accept connection requests, and that was about it. So I'm even using LinkedIn differently now because of their content. So the fact that they're enabling, you know, big corporate, well, I guess it will be big companies too. If it's a paid solution, the average small Joe guy isn't good. But on the other hand, the average small business doesn't have that many employees. So, you know, it is an enterprise solution, but it's almost more of an enterprise problem too.
Yeah, I also see it as giving. Oh, go ahead, James.
No, please do, because I was going to bring in a comment, so that's fine. Go for it.
I'll make my last comment on that then. I think it's really empowering employees. It's giving everybody a voice, not just the C-suite. You're giving every employee a voice, and then it allows people like you and I, Kim and James, to go and read whatever content we want by clicking into specific channels. But you're not just hearing from one level of right?
Yes.
You're all levels. So, and LinkedIn did not have that in the beginning, especially with their influencers. It was like, oh, you're not an influencer, I don't want to hear from you. Now there's a lot more content from a lot more individuals.
Totally.
Yeah, and good content.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, just to mention, so this is what Greg says. So company page is actually due for a major revamp. So, okay, fair enough. And what he said is that what will set Elevate apart from Hootsuite, Buffer, etc., is the integration with LinkedIn and direct access to Pulse and Newsly, as you suggested there, Vincenzo. So that's.
I mean, I use Buffer. Buffer used follower wonk to optimize times of posting to tap into your followers or who you're following to optimize the times. Now they've built in their own optimization schedule, but LinkedIn still never had anything like that for themselves. So now, yes, Greg, that's a great point. It's definitely going to set it apart. And for those enterprises, and even small to medium enterprises, they may shift more to LinkedIn now instead of using Twitter as much as they were because of those new features.
Well, there's finally the opportunity for amplification without even thinking about it. It's only 2% of employees are currently sharing content. I mean, the amount of times I go into clients and say, look, everybody here is on LinkedIn, and ultimately your brand logo is a brand logo. It's the sum of the component parts within your company that are more powerful than your logo. You've just got to get to every single one of them and put them up on a pedestal to start amplifying your content, which will basically, the sum of those component parts will be the biggest thing that you can ever do. Maybe this will help it. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, look, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Vincenzo, is there anything else which you've sort of picked up on from the news and you can sort of say for the last couple of minutes that we've got?
Just, the other thing I wanted to mention was that Facebook is, and we kind of briefly touched on it before, but Facebook with the video, really stressing the video content, keep uploading video, create video. That's kind of my personal little nugget of knowledge there. But Facebook is also cutting back a lot on spam, on fake likes. So buying likes has become really frowned upon, obviously, but it's also something that Facebook has constantly been working on, and things that I've heard is that they're dumping a lot of money into stopping it. They want it to stop even before, like they're actually tracking tendencies now. So if you're even acting like a spammer, you may be blocked from certain liking certain pages. So that is huge. I know that in the social media world, Kim, you and I were always fighting up against spam and trolls and things like that. So anything that the more these networks dump money into controlling the quality and keeping it as the highest quality as possible is only better for marketers like us. I think some people, I've heard some people like, well, that eliminates your job because now no, it doesn't. It makes my job easier, and it should make your job easier because now we're reaching quality people, not just a bunch of fakes from all over the globe.
No, I agree.
But the Facebook thing is huge because there's been a lot of fake likes on Facebook, especially when running ads and whatnot. So you're paying. The biggest gripe that small and medium businesses have is, I spent some money and I got a bunch of fake likes. No one's actually engaging my page.
Yeah. It's that old adage, which it's a quote I heard many moons ago about followers are vanity and engagement is sanity, and it's as true now as it is before. But there was a client I've recently just done a review for, and I've just said to them, "Wow, you got 50,000 Twitter followers. That's fantastic, but 56% of those are fake." And every single one of your competition has got under 1,000. I mean, there's a disconnect there, and anybody who looks at your page is going, "Wow, 56,000 followers." But they never say anything. It's sort of like, well, there's a problem here, right? There's a serious problem. Just quickly, and Kim, I've seen your thing in here about Google offering custom audiences. You're right, and how cool is that?
It's very cool.
Do you want to explain what that means, or?
Well, I think, yeah. Well, Google's always been. Google was the place to advertise online, and then Facebook came out with Facebook ads, and Facebook was very quick about coming out with some really innovative features, like this ability to create custom audiences, where not only can you retarget people who have gone to your website, but now you can also upload, say, your email list, and then advertise to that email list. And because everyone knows it takes a certain amount of touch points before you can make a sale or a conversion, and so this gives you one more opportunity to get in front of your ideal audience. And so now it looks like, from what I understand, Google is thinking of offering the same type of ability to upload your own list or bring in your own set of people that you want to target in advertising, rather than relying on keywords or remarketing from your website. So I think that's, there'll be those people who be like, oh, Facebook's already doing that. But I think it's awesome because competition is awesome, and the more that Google strives to increase better their offering product-wise, and then Facebook will do the same, and it benefits us as marketers, and it benefits consumers because they're getting better ads. So it's
and I'll drop this one last thing on top of that, Kim. Every time there's an algorithm change, Google, Facebook, Twitter, any of these, it strives to remind you to create better content. Keep creating better content and providing better content for your viewers, your audience, and yourself. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, too right. And for me, funny enough, it's the one word which I almost live by, which is context. Everything is about context now. And we talked initially, almost at the very start of the show, about how content has to be, better than it's ever been before to get found. My argument is you've got to have contextualized content distributed to the right people at the right time. It's all about context. And I applaud that from Google because, certainly I've seen that the whole Facebook stuff works very, very well with customized audiences. I think it's an incredibly clever thing to do. It makes you think about marketing strategies in the way that you do things differently, because it's not just a blunt instrument trying to sort of, In fact, I'll tell you what it is. For me, it's a little bit like the old direct mail, where when you're advertising on PPC, it's basically like a direct mail campaign where you're just saying, right, I'm going to pick a postcode or a zip code, and I'm just going to send everybody a letter, and I'll chuck it through the doors. What this is almost for me like, I don't know if you guys had this over there, but we used to be able to then personalize that direct mail. So there might be a picture of a house on the front, and the clouds would be in the client's name. For me, this is a bit similar to that, which is you're suddenly making it a little bit more personal to the people that you're marketing to. So it just makes you rethink, I think, when you're able to have absolute knowledge of your contacts, building customized audiences within both Facebook, Google. I think it's a clever thing. Although Jim Banks, who's on here watching, I don't know if you're still watching this, Jim, but Jim actually mentioned about the custom audiences within Google and AdWords, saying that actually he felt it was a bit of a last-ditch attempt. Because he's a big PPC guy and was just like, no, it's Google's last attempt at trying to make something good out of this. So, don't know. Okay, let's have a look. Michael Mason, custom audiences through the use of Hangouts, community Hangouts, knows what sex, Google plus part. Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, look, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to close up because it's 6:05 over here at the moment, so we run over time a little bit. But look, I just want to thank Kimberly again. Wonderful. Thank you ever so much for all of your time. It's incredibly interesting what you give from Social Media Examiner. And for those of you who want to see the recap of Social Media Marketing World, I've actually put it into the Showcase app. There's 7 really, really good overviews of different points from the show.
Oh, can I point one thing out super quickly?
Please do.
So our big announcement this year at Social Media Marketing World was that we're launching the Social Media Marketing Society. And this, until the 30th, I believe, this week, is the last week to get on what we call the Founders List. And only people on the Founders List are able to even join the society. And it's going to be amazing, all sorts of free training. So if you get a chance, go to society.socialmediaexaminer.com and get on the Founders List. There's a lot of benefits, no cost. So at this point.
Cool. And then, Vincenzo, thanks, mate. Debut.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it.
But you know what? I'm gutted, right? I'm really gutted. And I've got to tell you this because check out Vincenzo's Hangout series and Meerkat series because I saw probably the coolest Hangout with the coolest people. And the now I always get this wrong. Savvy Sexy Social. That's her name, wasn't it?
Amy Schmidt.
She's cool, right? She's cool. But then at the end of the Hangout, we can't do this. He had Chris, and I can never pronounce Chris's surname, but Chris had the coolest yo-yo tricks that he pulled out the bag right at the end. I stress to anybody watching this, watch that is it hashtag MCEO talk, right?
MCEO talk, yeah. Yes. I had to think about it for a second.
Seriously, watch that Hangout anyway, because it's a great Hangout. But then watch the last 5 minutes. When I mean, I'm seeing things with yo-yos I've never seen before in my life. I have no idea how that guy does that.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Crazy. Mechanical engineer turned yo-yo producer. Brilliant stuff. So anyway, look, there we go. We're going to finish on the show. So Vincenzo and Kim, thanks ever so much for your time. I really appreciate it, as ever. For those of you who are watching, do tune in 2 weeks' time. We've got another fantastic audience joining us. We've got Mark Schaefer talking about his new book, The Content Code, which is a fantastic read. I'm reading through it now. It's brilliant. And there's an awful lot of what we talked about today relevant to that discussion and that book. We've also bringing in Cara Wood, who's coming back for a 3rd or 4th time. It's a pleasure to have her on board because she's fantastic. And we've also got Thomas Power, a debutante, but one of the most influential people in the social media world in the UK. In fact, his wife, Penny, won an OBE for her work in the social media spectrum. So that's going to be a pretty rocking show for that as well. So do hope you'll join me in 2 weeks' time, same time. So thanks, everybody. See you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.